friendly neighborhood PhD, and you're listening to the TyePod.
Well, hey, everybody, it's another episode of the TyePod. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Reena Watts, who is an entrepreneur or a momtrepreneur. New word I'm learning. And I know that you have a podcast, Better Call Daddy, I think is the name of it, right? Where you and your dad talk about different things and have guests on from many different fields, it sounds like. So I'm really excited to get your story on how you got into all that and then learn a little bit more about you and your family and everything. But it's great to have you.
I'm really excited to be here and learn more about you and your story too.
That sounds great. I do have an icebreaker question. So I'm curious, I ask all the guests this now, if you have a song that's either a current song that you're really into or one that kind of goes way back that's really connected to like you and your story. Is there any that are that way?
Yes, I recently have gotten back into someone from kind of like my teenage angst years. I don't know if you've heard of her because I'm probably a little older than you, but her name is Juliana Hatfield. She's kind of like from that like Tori Amos, Indigo Girls era.
Okay.
And oh my God, I have gotten really into her music again recently. Yeah. I also just recently got a new car and I have CarPlay. So I have been jamming out to Juliana Hatfield, and I'll tell you a couple of my favorite songs. One is Downtown. I think that's the name of it. One is Mabel. But yeah, that whole album is so good. There's another one called Supermodel. But I was listening to the one Downtown today as I was driving downtown Houston and taking a creative entrepreneurship class. And I was like, yes, like get out into downtown, drive somewhere new, be on that open road, sing out loud. And I was just like feeling like, that.
Make use of the new speaker system too, probably. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very cool. That's awesome. I don't think I've had anybody have the same artist or song like once yet. So that's really cool.
You'll have to check her out.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'd kind of like to get into just a short intro, like if you have like an elevator pitch, kind of about you and your story to just start off.
Okay, so my elevator pitch is I have a podcast with my dad. We've been podcasting together for about 5 years. I love interviewing other daddies, girls, inspirational dads, anybody with a good dad story. My dad has always been my number one fan and biggest supporter and given me a lot of wisdom. And so I kind of wanted to share that with the world. What's crazy is other daddies, girls totally get that.
Oh, yeah.
So by telling people that I'm an oldest daughter, I have 2 sisters, by telling people that I have this special connection with my dad, other people that have special connections with their dad, they then find me.
Yeah. There's like a magnetism or something maybe that they're drawn to there. Yeah, that's really cool. So starting out, was it just you and your dad initially, or did you have guests like from the beginning? How did you kind of format or structure that like from the start?
Great question. So in the beginning, I thought about having my dad on for the interviews, but then it was like, I felt like that is just going to be too much of a time commitment for him, really.
Yeah.
And also he wants to talk, I want to talk, the guest wants to talk. I just felt like that was too busy. So what it's turned into now is I do all the interviews. Occasionally I'll bring him on if it's like a repeat guest or if it's another daddy-daughter pair. I've done that. I've done daddy, daughter.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's just me interviewing the guest, cutting down the interview to what it's going to be. I send that to my dad. He listens separately. Then we hop on, talk about the guest. Sometimes the guest will have a question for my dad or just want my dad to like reflect on their story. Or, if it's a themed episode, he'll comment on the theme. And
that's really cool. It's made it where it's efficient, but also like you can get, his legit take kind of when he can get to it also maybe.
Exactly. And
really
then from what he says, that's kind of how I formulate my intro.
Yeah.
I'll take a bit of his reflection and I'll tie that into how I introduce the guest.
Yeah. And it's been that way from the beginning, or was it something that evolved into that, like as you got more episodes?
Yeah, it's more of an evolution.
Yeah,
and I just did an episode recently with a dad who was on my podcast a couple of years ago, and he wrote a new book and he wanted to do an update. And something that I thought would be fun would just be to do like a little rewind sound and pull a couple bits from our previous conversation.
That'd be cool.
That's what I did. So I took a couple like throwback bits, made a little rewind sound, and then went into the new interview. As a creative, as an artist, I think you can talk about the classes you're taking. You can talk about the podcasters you're connecting to. You can do daddy-daughter stories. Like, unless have some loyal, humongous fan base, you can shift, you can pivot, you can mix things up.
Totally.
And solos, you could do interviews, you could do live interviews, you could do library interviews. It doesn't always have to be the same thing.
Yeah, that's like one of the coolest things about it is like it can evolve kind of with you and where you're at. And, I personally don't have it's not a like money source. It's not a financial thing. So it's all volunteer work basically. And it's like, sure, I'm going to, you know, pivot and go where I want to go and talk about, you know, pretty much any issue that's of interest to me or the guest, you know. So it's kind of this organic flowing thing for me. But has it been that way for you, or
100%.
yeah.
I feel like in the beginning too,
Yeah.
I over edited.
Mhm.
I tried to like re-record things. If I didn't
Yeah.
like the way I asked it, I sometimes would restate things. And now I really feel like the world needs more authenticity.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
less editing.
That's such a good point. You know, like I remember being in you know, some of my college years, I was doing some entrepreneurial stuff, and I did like a 3-minute pitch type video, right? And I think I spent 2 hours and did like 40 takes, you know, just like getting everything perfect. And this was before COVID. This was years ago. And you know, now I'm taking that to heart. I'm like, I am not going to edit out every or pause or phrase that's repeated over again. You know, like it's part of the authentic conversation. I feel like is some of those just natural, you know, I don't know what you call them, but like unsmooth parts of a conversation.
I was going to say flubs. I mean, I literally
That
have
too.
had,
Yeah.
tornado signals go off. My dad
Really?
will get
Ooh.
a notification
Yeah.
pop off. I mean, if you can cut it, if it's not in a word, do
Right.
it. But
Right.
you
Yeah. Like,
understand where if you're
yeah, you
interviewing
can.
somebody live, you know, there
Right.
could be some background noise. I think that
I
people
mean,
understand that.
dogs, like all kinds of different stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So actually that's a good segue. So are there any episodes, like 2 or 3 maybe, that something really random or crazy happened, and like how did you like respond to that?
Yeah, I actually had a tornado signal go off during one of my interviews with a podcast. It was called, oh, I forgot the name of it, but I think it's Positively Lisa on Instagram. And she was doing like she does coaching calls and she turns those into podcasting episodes. And I was getting ready to move from Chicago to Houston and a tornado alarm went off. And she's like, oh, that never happens. We're keeping that in. That's good. That's like realness.
So
right
it was
there.
on your side, not the host side.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was like,
So
well,
like
if
I
we
can just
survive
picture
this.
you like, yeah, like taking your phone out in your vehicle and like driving as the tornadoes in the background. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you can play into it and
Yeah.
improv, then it's great. I also had this other lady interview me. Her name is Lisa David Olson. And I think her day job is she's like a police dispatcher, but she's also like very into comedy. And she was like, do you want to prank anyone live? I was like, oh my God,
Interesting.
yes.
Yeah.
So I called my dad during the podcast interview and told him I was pregnant. And
Uh-oh.
we were like recording, and then I
Yeah.
had it like on the phone, like in the mic. So that was funny. And then I told my daughter at the time that my foot was stuck in the drawer and I needed her to bring a butter knife and some butter.
How did you even keep it straight? Like, how did you not give it away?
She was like, what do you want me to do with the butter?
Yeah.
I was like, just rub it all. She was young. I was like, just
Yeah.
rub it all over my ankle. And what we're going to do is you're going to pull really hard. And if we can't get my foot out, then we're going to use the knife. And she was like, the knife? Really?
Oh,
You know?
no. Oh, that had to be just
It
hilarious.
was hysterical.
Yeah. See,
So we've
I
had
can
some fun.
I appreciate the humor element too. Like that's really a good thing to have, I feel like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, even with creating content. You know, I
Yeah.
was in this class today and it's an entrepreneurship class,
Mhm.
and we were talking about contracts and pricing your service. And there was a guy who was, you know, early on in his entrepreneurial journey. And
Yeah.
he was like, how do I respond if somebody like wants to write a contract on a napkin?
Ooh,
He literally
yeah.
asked that. And I was like, oh my God, that would make such a great social media clip.
It would.
Somebody
It
writing a
would.
contract on a napkin and passing it over. Do we
It
have
sounds
a
like something
deal?
that you see in a movie too, right? Like one of those kind of things, just like you're sitting at the table and there's a napkin, and yeah. And in fact, like the classes I took in entrepreneurial stuff, like the person was mentoring me and said, like, you got to be ready to make a deal in the parking lot. Like, I'm like, okay, well, that's not how I would envision like Shark Tank, but basically that's what you have to do sometimes, you know?
Yeah, I was just like, this is so great. You know, and putting yourself around other people on the podcast or taking a class or going to networking events, all of this like sparks creativity, sparks ideas, sparks connections. It's so great for all of that.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you too, like, I'm sure that's impacted you, you know, as a person, but also like with your like career pathway and like where you're going with all of that, like, has there been, you know, impact on that side of you as well, where you've kind of gotten inspiration for where you're going? That's like a career path, maybe?
Oh my God, thank you. That's such a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had people on my podcast that like how I create content and then have asked me if I could help them with marketing or help them with LinkedIn or help them create reels or come to their business and help them tell their business story. I mean, it has led to incredible opportunities like that and doing the work that I love.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it's like a networking thing, right? Like it it keeps forming new branches. I feel like with, I mean, every guest, and then they know like 2 or 3 other people at least that might be interesting to talk to. So it's just like, this avalanche of, or like a snowball effect, I think of, where the podcast can really take you. And it's really cool to see kind of how you evolve with it, really. But like your mission as far as the podcast goes, do you have like a mission statement or kind of a general, goal, I guess, in mind with everything as a whole?
I mean, my dad always says to me that, he was like, you're getting to interview me every day.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's been such an impactful project
Mhm.
and a bonding special time with my father that if the only reason I'm doing it is for him at this point, it's even worth it, because I can't think of too many girls in their mid 40s that have
True.
a project with their boomer dad. Where my dad has
Yeah.
listened to me interview over 470 people, and he has listened to every episode. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about requiring a lot of special time. My dad has given me
Serious.
some serious special time. And I'm like, I hope that our show encourages other people to interview their family members to, create some sort of special content with their family, with their kids. I mean, other shows, like there's the Fatherhood Challenge with Jonathan Guerrero. He recently incorporated his son. I had another chick, Sonia Thompson.
Yeah.
She came on my show. Her son came on my show. Then they made a spinoff series. It was a mother-son show.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. If I can inspire other people to collaborate with their parents,
It's like a
with their
spinoff
kids,
thing almost. Yeah.
that gives
Yeah.
me so much joy. I love
I've seen
that.
that a few times too already. Like a few people I've talked to, all of a sudden they've ended up with a podcast too. And it's like, hey, this has some momentum to it, like it's good to just kind of see that energy move forward. I think with other people that you talk to as well, like I don't know, it's really a cool connection, I think. And how does he feel about it as a whole? Like, I'm sure he's loved every minute almost.
He seriously said, like, even if it's just for him, that's enough. Like, he tells me that.
That's enough to see. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it's crazy. Like, if you get a podcast listener to listen to 15 hours, you're like,
yeah,
that's a good follower.
Oh, that's
right?
huge.
Like,
yeah.
If you get people to listen to 15-year episodes and message you and comment and let you know that they were into those episodes, that is a loyal fan.
Yeah.
My dad has listened to 470 full episodes of me.
And giving you feedback on it afterwards, right?
And giving me feedback. That's insane.
Yeah.
My dad likes me.
That's a good thing. Like if you're looking for confirmation, right? Like 470 dedicated hours of listening.
I was talking to another daddy's girl today. Shout out to Margarita in my creative entrepreneurship class. And she was just like, when a daughter has a dad that lets her know that, she can do anything in this world.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea the confidence that gives you.
Seriously.
It helps you be better in business. It helps you be better in relationships. It's so
just
important.
That positive feedback, really, right? Yeah.
For you to believe in yourself and for you to know that the sky is the limit. And for a parent to tell you that, it gives you an edge.
Right. Right. I mean, that's something that I don't think anyone can really know how much of an impact that can have, on their kids, just to offer that kind of support, really. I mean, like it's kind of a cliche thing in a way, but, like to tell your kids to build them up that way, it's still, I think it's lost a lot actually now, like
it's simple things too.
Yeah.
Like telling your kid, like, I'm glad you're here.
Right. Right. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate or hard, right? Just like encouraging, like, I'm here, like I got your back on stuff.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And even
my
doing that
dad's
for your
situation's
friends.
like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about your dad and how he supports you. I want to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of he's been there pretty much every phase of, with my wife and like even the career, and with muscular dystrophy, obviously the physical side of it, the progression on that end is made it where the caregiving element, is obviously a big need there. But I think it's been like, it's led to it being so much more, than that. Like he would basically take me to my classes when I was in grad school every day. And like, he would get to hear, a lot of the stories of like, oh, well, this experiment, crashed and burned, or like, I got to write this paper that's due, in a week. So he gets to hear all the ranting too, which is good in a way, because we kind of talk through solutions to some of it too. So that's been really good, and then just like knowing, I guess, how to handle things. Like if small emergencies pop up, like here's, kind of our system or protocol for how to handle it, and it's just, I mean, there's just been, I would say, just tons of, I don't know, just like strengths to being around him that much, and I'm kind of learning from his experience and sharing mine. And, it's just been like, I don't even know how I would have gotten to this point really, without.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. It's been pretty much a best friend type of situation, really.
I love that
Yeah.
so much. It's funny too because I've been so excited about this creative entrepreneurship class that I'm
Yeah.
taking. And my dad's an entrepreneur. He ran a manufacturing company with his parents for 40
Oh,
plus
okay.
years. And he was teaching me how to price my clients or how to take more than one
Yeah.
client, how to get rid of a client that's not good. And now that I've gone back to school, he's like, "Ooh, you're becoming quite a business lady. I like it,"
Uh-oh.
and it was
Yeah.
reminding him of his father. And he was
Oh, that's
like,
cool.
he was saying his dad until the end always wanted to make a deal, always wanted to keep the business going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, maybe when your son, graduates high school, he was like, maybe I'll go and take a class with him. So I love that your
Interesting.
dad like went to school with you. What was that
Basically, and like
like?
my degree ended up being in engineering, right? And his degree was in well, it was like mainly like agriculture business area, so the obviously the field was very, very different. And he didn't have the background in math and everything, so he got to kind of go along with some of it, and I even remember I think I was in 8th grade, and I had a class where for some reason the assignments got piled up where I had to get like 10 math assignments done in a day or something like that. I don't remember, but he and I basically sat through and worked those problems out like on a weekend, and knocked out, pretty much every single one. So that worked out. But that was, even decades ago at this point, that's still something I think about, and even though he didn't, fully, like he didn't attend the classes or understand every element, but it was cool to see that, he was learning and seeing some new things at the same time I was, and that was cool to see. And he even got to be on, friendly conversational level with a lot of the professors or friends that I had around, so it was, I think most of the people knew who he was and would see him around. And so that was pretty cool.
Were you ever
Yeah.
embarrassed that he had to be there?
Not really. I always would just kind of like go with the flow. And he and I kind of had a good, working relationship as far as like, I'll do these things kind of independently as much as I can. And then, then we'll have the time that we're doing stuff too. So there was always a nice balance there of, and that's not always easy with something like MD. You can't just, casually plan out things. Sometimes you got to be like, well, I need to meet you in 2 hours at this spot, so like there's details to getting through the day of classwork and everything that, we had to be pretty good at setting things up and planning. Yeah.
I'm curious too, just kind of your
Yeah.
journey with muscular dystrophy. And did you talk to your friends about it growing up?
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the time, yeah. And to be honest, like it was one of those things, like at first, as obvious as it was physically from people looking in, like with a wheelchair or whatever, I would always downplay it a lot as when I was younger, going through like high school, like trying to ignore and pretend it wasn't there, which is in hindsight, like that's kind of a big part of who I am. And it's not really something to have to worry about, downplaying or anything like that. So that element of it, it evolved a lot, like to the point, like, yeah, I'm fine telling people what it is and what it takes and what it, the little silver linings that it gives to, like I don't know, there's just all the elements of it that I'm much more comfortable now discussing what that's like and, how I deal or don't deal with it or whatever, like I'm pretty open about it in a way that I wasn't probably even before the pandemic. Like some things that happened, since the start of that have shifted a lot of my thoughts on, on sharing experience and telling people about it and that stuff.
Oh, I want to know what shifted.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the openness, just like
Yeah.
sharing the story, I think is more, it's more important to me now. And I think a lot of that was time. Like I ended up having time on my hands that was filled up before. And so that's like, reflection and kind of looking back on things and then getting into social media. Like I really hadn't done that before then, and now it's exploded. It's like it's kind of my career in a way, even though it's, not monetary gains, but but there's a lot of other things to it that it brings. So yeah, I think just being open and being willing to share, is the biggest shift.
When did you know that you had muscular dystrophy?
So didn't know exactly, but we had ideas around 7 or 8 years old, and so it was little signs, on physical tiredness or, like how much I could walk in a day or little things like that over time. And when they say it's progressive, that's exactly, mine has been about as, slowly progressive as you can get, I think, and you just have to be ready to kind of adapt, like old versions or like die off kind of what you can do. And then you have to kind of readapt or reinvent, what you can do and how much help you're going to need, all that kind of stuff, so it's a constant pivot, I think, with my situation, at least.
I actually have done many episodes around
Yeah.
muscular dystrophy, around Duchenne. And actually, when we moved to Chicago from Kentucky, my oldest son's first friend
Mhm.
found out that he had Duchenne
Okay.
at like 5 or 6. And what
Yeah.
was so interesting too is like he wanted to tell his friends, like he
Mm,
wanted
was
to talk
comfortable right
about
then,
it.
huh?
He was comfortable talking about it. I think the parents actually had a harder
Mm,
time, to be
right. I could
honest,
get that.
than he did, because I don't, as a child, I don't think you really fully
Exactly. That's a good
understand.
point. Like you grow up with it, and so it's just part of your day to day, right? Like it's not this sort of foreign thing that's invading your life. Like it's just incorporated. Yeah. So that's a good point.
Do you feel like your parents ever showed you that they were sad about it?
Not really. No. I mean, it was always, and I'm not gonna like sugarcoat. Like there's moments obviously where it's rough, but like it was like finding what I wanted to do, what I was interested in, and academics obviously was a huge part of it. Like that was where they invested, into that, and just I think kind of doing what we wanted to do despite the things going on, even and like empowering me from the start. Really, like if there were doctor's appointments that were like pointless or didn't offer any solution and brought more harm than good, like we would like slow down on those, and maybe against the advice of some of the doctors, like it was like, I'm not going to be one of those that's always going to pre-check everything over and over every year, and that was traumatic, and I'm sure it is for most people with an MD diagnosis and their parents like that. Those are the times that it's hard, is when you hear a doctor saying, well, there's no cure, there's no treatment, like you can do steroids, you can see a dietitian, and it's like that's not going to help me, like that's going to bring me down more, and so like that, I think that kept us in a positive mindset too, and just kind of kept moving forward with things. Yeah.
I know, because I interviewed a girl. I was telling you
Yeah,
before
I
we
was gonna have you
started
tell that story. Yeah.
recording. Her name is Lily Brash, and when she was born, she was told, I think, that she would only live until like 2 years old.
Hmm.
And her father was a doctor, and he was like, I know that sometimes doctors don't know everything. And he's like, I am going to get you the best care. I'm going to get you the best doctors.
And honestly, to medical professionals, they need to stop with the years left thing. I mean, that is the most, like, I don't know, presumptuous. Like, yeah, I don't agree with giving patients that.
I mean, my own grandmother was told she only had a couple months to live like 4 years ago. So
Yeah.
why do they do that to people? I feel like that's the worst thing
And
you
even
could say to
online,
someone.
like, you can find like professionals. They're like, well, you won't live past 20. And I'm like, well, here I am. I'm almost 40. So yeah, kind of prove that wrong. So yeah, I wish they would just stop doing that, but they probably won't.
So Lily, who I interviewed, I was one of the first podcasts who she was on. She's a daddy's girl. She's done
Mm-hmm.
remarkable things. She was working on a documentary, and I think it's called Born to Prove. And
Mm.
her voice is impacted by having
Yeah.
muscular dystrophy, but she public speaks. She walks runways. She's walked Fashion Week New York. They wheeled her up to the catwalk and she walked the thing.
Yeah.
She gets out and goes to events. She made it into Columbia University. She's climbed the farthest for any, I think
Mm.
it's anyone with muscular dystrophy that's a
Mm-hmm.
woman. She's broken 2 Guinness World Book records. She's swam the
Jeez.
furthest, climbed the furthest. I mean, I honestly, kind of back to the daddy's girl thing, but I think that comes from having a strong family
Oh, it
and
does.
siblings that
Yeah.
help her up the mountain.
It's that support system, right? Like that's everything. And when you find out that some don't have that, it's just like, I don't know where I would be. I mean, that really empowers, I think, a lot when kids with a diagnosis or a rare disease have that. And it doesn't even have to be parents, like it could be a friend, a mentor, like somebody just in their corner, like you were saying, even about, when you were sort of improvising on that, where you were having an interview like that, knowing that there's 1, 2 people there that have your back, like whatever challenge you're going through, I think is a huge thing.
Yeah, part of the reason I started the podcast with my dad is because
Yeah.
I've always been kind of
Yeah.
afraid of crowds, but I'm comfortable in the one-on-one setting. I used to love to sing as a kid. I love
Mm-hmm.
music. Music ignites my soul. And
Yeah.
I went to a small private school, kindergarten through 5th grade. Then I begged my parents to go to public school. Then I
Mm-hmm.
was bullied in middle school. And then I auditioned for a youth performing arts school. I did not get in on the first try because I didn't know how to read music. I didn't know I had to sing in a foreign language. My
Yeah.
dad went to the head of the music department and was kind of like, what do we need to do here to get her another
Mm-hmm.
audition? And I ended up taking music lessons and singing lessons and re-auditioning and swallowing my pride and
Yeah.
getting in on the second try. And never really singing out though until kind of like my senior year
Yeah.
when all the colleges showed up and, there was a day where you could like sing in front of them and get
Yeah.
scholarship money. And I kind of, mustered up the strength to know that I made it through that program. And today was the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? I totally got sidetracked.
I'm trying to remember. I've done that too. There's something I know we were talking about support system.
I was going to say, yeah. So, I ended up singing the Star Spangled Banner at my first college, but my sister stood up there and held my hand, and doing this podcast with my dad, I feel like he's holding my hand. And, that just shows you, like, if you have the right support system and, the right belief in yourself and you can develop confidence, you really can do like so much more than you think you can.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. But I was actually going to ask you, like, were there any like episodes or topics that you talked with guests about that were maybe hard or awkward or brought extra seriousness, like any of those fun moments with your dad on the podcast?
We've had some challenging topics.
Yeah.
Yes. And to be honest, I shy away from them a little bit more now because some of those, one was, and I've talked about this a few times, was a guy who was a sperm donor to, I think 23 children at the time, something like that. And my dad wanted more kids, and after 3 kids, my mom decided that was all she could handle. And that was a kind of a contention point in their marriage. And my dad at one point was like, oh, maybe I should, do that. And after talking to this guy who did do that, he was like, wow, like he's not attached really to any of the kids that he does donate to. And maybe it's not really for helping these families. So I felt like they had kind of a spat after the show of like, why he's actually donating. I felt like that was probably something that I didn't need to go further into because nothing good was going to come out of it. And then another difficult topic was, in my dad's generation, I think that he had preconceived notions around the topic of abortion. But I interviewed a lady who was close to my dad's age, and, her sister ended up being in an abusive situation and having a child. And then when she got into a situation that was also not good, she decided to do that. And, after my dad met this lady in person and saw that she had held a professional career and was an entrepreneur and going back to school and had a daughter now, he was like, wow, it kind of like, I feel like changed his opinion or views on that. But it's something that is uncomfortable to talk about. Definitely.
But I think the fact that almost in a way helped bridge that, misunderstanding, and it might not lead to full agreement on an issue that's that serious all the time, but like just the openness and kind of learning that it's not such a black and white issue with things like that now, like there's so much more involved. And like you said, abusive situations, obviously. And I mean, there's just cases where if that's available medically, like I think that should be a choice a person can make, and so like that, I love the fact that the podcast almost brought that to a point where at least there was some awareness and understanding, I think.
100%. Yeah. So it's been interesting to talk to my dad about things that we never would have talked about otherwise. But I have had to say a few times, like, maybe you should sit on this episode before we respond to it right away. Like usually he'll listen to an interview and I'll be like, let me know when you're done. Let's hop on and record that reaction. But sometimes I'll be like, are you ready to do the reaction? He's like, I think I need to sleep on this one so I don't say anything offensive.
Yeah. Well, that's cool though that he's willing to say that at least, because I mean, sometimes you don't
I might say like, what do you want to say? And like, how can I help you reframe that?
Make it into like a friendly discussion format. That's interesting. Topics that are, people from older generations just have a firm stance on, but it seems like he's become more open overall than on those.
Have you given your parents any pushback on anything?
I think it's been more like conversational, like after the fact. Like I don't get the reaction on podcast, but like I'll go to him like, hey, we talked about this topic, or this is interesting, like this side of it, and like I think the views have, again, going from black and white to more like, there's areas where it is kind of a gray thing, and like, and even obviously the politics and how that blends into all the stuff going on in the world and medical care. Like there's so many issues that are hot button topics now, but I feel like we at least kind of understand, kind of where we are on what we each think of it, and and maybe don't agree on every aspect, but at least I feel like that openness and kind of the empathy factor too, right? Like, I mean, there's topics that come up that at least you can have some understanding and be like, okay, well, that's another human. It's, whatever their differences are, like they're a human, and like, who are we to pass judgment or condemn or say what somebody should do when we don't really know what their situation is. You know what I mean? Like it's, so yeah, I think just conversationally, like we've probably softened on several issues that maybe wouldn't have been that way before.
Can I ask
Yeah.
you a question?
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts around like dating?
That's that's full episode worth of material there probably. But yeah, I mean like all that stuff too, you know. But yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, we talked about how I've interviewed people with disabilities, but I didn't
Yeah.
even like think of them in that they have a
Oh
disability.
yeah.
Because like, I was like, she's daddy's girl. She's a Guinness World Book record holder. She wants to come to an event that I'm hosting live. But oh yeah, she does have one. And then because you were asking me like, was there any disabilities in my family? Because you talk about disability and you talk about special needs. And then I was like going back through who I've talked to. But like as a mom too, I'm also curious, like, how do you teach kids to be sensitive or to not stare or to not say the wrong things? Like, do you have any advice around that?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is like, you can't control the uncontrollable things that other people do, and that's become for me with younger kids or with, people that maybe haven't seen it much. Like when they ask questions, I try to steer it in a positive way when they ask like what's wrong or whatever, without giving them, I don't have to give them the full list of, here's every symptom or everything that goes wrong, but like just trying to explain it in a way where they can understand it. And like the earlier you do it, the better of putting them, like have them do things around people with disability and don't even bring it up. Like don't make it the central point of the topic, right? Like I have a nephew who's 4 now. Like we try to just like play games on the iPad or, watch whatever his show is that he's into, like, or even I'll pause things and ask him questions, and like there's just, you don't have to make it the only thing, that people know about you, obviously. But where I draw a harder line is like people that are older, they are aware, know what's going on. Like some awareness would be nice, like to understand how would you feel, like if I went up to you and asked you, like, you're walking, why are you walking? What's wrong with that? Like if you turned it the opposite way, right? Like why aren't you using a wheelchair? Like people are just so, I guess, like unabashedly like bold about going up and asking some, and it's not really bold, it's more like it's just like rude in a way, to go up to somebody and make judgments just because they look a little different, right? Like and in restaurants I have to have help eating now, and that's been a progressive thing that's gotten harder, and I've noticed some more people staring than before, or like even some waiters have like passed over me when everyone's ordering at the table and they just like jump and I'm just like hey, like right here, dude. Like, so it's weird. Like maybe I didn't notice it, or maybe I let my parents, which I don't remember ever letting them really order meals or anything. Like I don't know where that shift happened, where people started, or maybe I just noticed it more. But like kids, I'm like, I want to help them learn, and I guess I should be that way with any age group, really. But it's like at least adults should be at least a little bit aware, which that's a bad assumption to make nowadays. But yeah, like it's not easy, and you bring in more serious things like you were saying about the dating thing, and I mean, I don't know if there's a single disabled person I've talked to that has had an answer for how to approach or handle that, especially with this swipe culture thing that which with a disability, having the access to these apps and all these people, and that on the surface feels amazing. Like I don't have to get out of the house to meet somebody, but it's also on the other hand made it easy to just dismiss people if they're not like bodybuilder, world traveler, like there's this checklist in people's minds, and if that's not on the profile, it's like swipe, you're gone, And so it's I don't know, it's a weird thing. Like, and to be honest with you, like dating is something I've kind of put back burner because I'm like, the definitions and labels that go along with that are not worth my time, and I'm like, I'm not going to bring myself down and do that when there's other things I could do that I like. Well, like the podcast thing, right? Like conversations with just people thousands of miles away. And I mean, you learn a lot and you gain a lot from those. And you realize kind of too that the world's a bigger place than like, swipe dating too. And I'm not going to say I don't still think about or want it at times or have that as an option, right? But it's at the same time, it's like, well, you can only do so much. And, if that doesn't happen, then, it doesn't happen. So that's kind of my take on that, I guess. But, I think focusing on the other elements of the person is such a big deal. And that's my advice, I guess, on it.
Do you feel
Long-winded.
like, no, it's super interesting. I mean, I have had people that, have disabilities like
Yeah.
want to date and ask
Yeah.
me if I know anyone. So
Know anyone, like, as in someone who would be a potential like match for them or something like that? Or, yeah. Well, how does that make, like, how do you feel when they come to you with it and ask you about,
like, well, who are they attracted to? What are, what are their interests? Like,
yeah,
that's
like,
what I think.
that's like,
But also, is that something that you disclose right away?
Yeah. That's hard, right? Because I mean, you could give the full blown, here's my diagnosis, here's every item that I struggle with. And I'm like, well, that's going to make almost anybody run away, right? Like, so I'm just like up front, like, okay, first of all,
it's like you need a resume. Here you go. Here's what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you almost need, right? Like, instead of a dating
A one
profile,
sheet for dating.
Yep. Here's your one sheeter. Yeah. That's ridiculous. But no, I think it's up to the person, obviously, that's a diagnosis. But I'm like, yeah, I'm going to show some of it. No, I'm not going to give you my, medical history or
right from birth till now.
Yeah. And like, the ones that are always just assuming things about it, like somehow if you need physical care, you can't bring anything else to the table. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, that's hard with, realizing or getting comfortable with what you share, like that's a rough topic.
Even in podcasting, getting comfortable with what you
Seriously.
share. I mean, we don't share everything, right? Like there are things that you have to respect other people's wishes on.
Have you had any guests where you kind of had to like steer away, or they said something that was a little bit too much?
I've had to unair an episode before
Really?
because
Okay.
I offended other people in my family. The thing is like, your experience is your experience, but other people have their own experience tied to your experience. And, people remember things the way
they
listen
remember
them,
right?
and they listen in. And, it isn't my goal to hurt people or upset people, so you have to be able to self-edit.
Yeah. That's not easy either. Always, being self-conscious, because I don't know about you, but in a way, I think everybody has a little part of themselves. They want to just like, tell, like, being 100% open.
It would make it a lot easier. I actually love guests that are like, I'm an open book. There's nothing you can't ask me. I'm like, oh, you're the best. Like,
and like, I don't give maybe the detail that when I'm a guest on a podcast, I might not give the detail they want, but like, I'll make an attempt at any question, and then just decide how open, I guess, or how much to give. But yeah, I love the ones that are open though.
I was talking to David Hirsch of the Special Father Dad to Dad podcast yesterday. And one thing that he told me is that, in talking to a lot of dads with special needs kids, he was saying that no parent ever wants to find out that news, but a lot of the parents that he's talked to wouldn't change it now. Like, it's like you were saying, like there's a lot of silver linings in it.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Definitely. I first thing I want to say on that is like, silver lining doesn't mean if it solves the problem, right? Like, it doesn't make it, it doesn't take it away, or like, it's not one of those things like, yeah, I would trade it all back. Like, it's not making it where like, I would rather be disabled than not. Like, that's not the point. It's like taking whatever is, causing you an issue and like try to embrace the sides of it that are softer, maybe, or like try to still bring in joy, like, or humor, or even if it's dark humor, right? Like all these, like I have 100 medical stories, I think now. And like, there's other guests, that have more. And it's just like, if you can laugh about that or like use some sarcasm, I know I'm notorious for that with some of my, closer friends. Like the sarcasm thing is probably too, that's one of our go-to things, but just like trying to, the little things you enjoy, right? Like, don't, like, even if you like, say, a coffee every day or twice a day or a latte, or like health experts be like, no, you don't need that. But I'm like, you know what? Like, I was in ICU for a month. I couldn't drink anything. So I'm going to drink this.
So I'm having two for that period where I couldn't have any.
Exactly. Like quality of life, right? Like, that's the big thing, I think, is just, like try to, and some days you can't, some days you aren't going to have a silver lining, like you're doing good just to survive through, like if it's a procedure that you're having to do, or even family health stuff. Like that's the hardest thing for me is like, I've experienced the point of receiving care from family, and like obviously trying to support and help them back in any way I could, but like with the uncontrollable things, like if they have a diagnosis or if they're going through a procedure, like the helplessness of it is that's something I have a lot of trouble with. And so finding silver linings in those moments, it's like, well, like I got to get them back as far as they can get to rehabilitate themselves, and find, if they need to find little things to help, or like I can take my experience and help sort of tailor it to like, oh, you can do this, you can watch, this show or this podcast, or, I'll even do like some searches online and kind of help, like, here's maybe a diet plan we could approach, or, you know what I mean? Just like trying to help. Like a silver lining for me is helping other people find silver linings. And that sounds kind of random, but yeah, like I think it doesn't provide a cure or downplay what's going on. But, again, your quality of life is going to be better if you can embrace the good things that are there,
I was wondering too, like, have you ever talked to younger children that have muscular dystrophy? Like,
not in bigger groups. Like I haven't really done that so much, but through the podcast and things, like there's been, people I can tell they're going through some similar things, or, maybe they would appreciate certain posts or whatever. And like that way, yeah, like I have seen, some benefits there for sure.
I feel like you could be like a keynote speaker, maybe even for that organization. I mean, I don't know if that'd be something that you would want to do, but
yeah. And I've had opportunities with, some nonprofits, and I still work with, I work with a couple, but Laughing at My Nightmares, one that was started, I don't know if you're familiar, but it was started by someone who had a form of muscular dystrophy. It's actually spinal muscle atrophy, but it's a neuromuscular progressive disease. And it's he and his cousin got this nonprofit started that helps provide funding for like equipment for other people that have MD, or they've even had like a COVID relief fund. They've done scholarships, in recent years too. And so like, that's another way, like as being part of that group, an organization, and kind of, intertwining some of the missions that I have and they have, like that's been really great to see kind of what's come out of that too.
I love that title, Laughing at My Nightmare.
It's
what
great,
a
right?
Great brand.
I know. Shane Burkhoff was the one who came up with that. And I'm just like, how did you, like, that was genius for a branding.
I would wear that shirt. I mean, how many nightmares have I had?
Seriously.
Everybody's had a nightmare.
And it brings the humor back too, right?
Oh my God. What a great title.
Yeah, it's good. You should check him out if
I will.
You can. It's really good.
To tell you one quick story.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
When I was kind of having like a career high and, I had 3 older children that were sleeping through the night and going to school, I decided to mix things up at 39 and have another baby. And that baby
that'll
came
add some fun.
7 weeks early. So I was supposed to have a couple client calls, and then I was like, I think I missed a doctor's appointment, and this baby sure isn't moving as much as my other ones.
Oh, wow.
So I just had like an inkling that I thought I needed to stop by the doctor, and I had a kid home from school with strep, and I went to the doctor, and they were like, do not go pick up your other kids from school. Do not take him out to lunch. You need to go directly to the hospital. And I ended up staying in the hospital, being monitored overnight. The heart monitor was going up and down. My kid was like, what happens if it goes to 0? I was like, find a nurse.
Yeah, seriously.
And then it did. And I ended up having an emergency C-section and a 3-pound baby. And I was rocked. My world got rocked. I was knocked off my feet. And you know what? Suddenly those meetings weren't important anymore. And suddenly, all of these career highs had to be put on the back burner. And
how was it for you? Like like what you're saying with, one kid had strep and like you had
he
all
couldn't
these things
come
going.
to the
It's
delivery. I was like, and my husband hadn't even told his job that I was pregnant yet, because the other ones all were full term and healthy. And
but like when
he would give
all
like
those
a 4-week
layers
notice.
Like how do you deal with all the layers that are just like dumped on you at once?
I was
like
lucky that he even made it to the delivery, but it was like, hey, tell your job, I'm pregnant, I'm having the baby, come pick up this kid, make sure the other ones get home from school. I'm good. I'm in the hospital. I got this. Like, that's what it looked like. And
well, you have to lean on the supports more then. For sure.
And we didn't have like, parents that live nearby. And I feel like a lot of the help that I've gotten in my life and in my career, I've paid for, I've paid for a doula, I've paid for a midwife, I've paid for babysitters. I've paid for care.
That's one of the hardest things too. Like, finding caregivers that you trust and rely on too. I mean, like that. Yeah. So I bet that was just, I don't know. I can't even imagine, what that took out of, all of you to get through that. And I mean, it sounds like everything, ended up okay with.
Thank God. That he was a healthy baby. But, he was in the NICU for 7 weeks. And
and every like noise or monitor or alarm going off, I mean, that has to just, have you on constant edge, I would think.
And juggling 3 other children who can't come to the NICU and a baby who's in the NICU, and just like divide and conquer. But I was going to say that's the life of an entrepreneur too.
Yeah.
Do you do the dishes? Do you do the recording? Do you do the
Well, it's
laundry?
prioritizing too, right? Like
text back a client? Do you call your dad?
Yep.
It's a constant juggle. And I think, like you even said, focus on the positive, focus on the passion, focus on what lights you up, and make sure that you sprinkle that in to the rest of the chaos.
Right. Exactly. And hey, if we have to reschedule our podcast for an hour later, like I did this morning, that actually can work well too. So yeah, I mean, it's all what you said, I think is exactly right. And you figure out kind of what works, what your priorities are, what you have to have and what you maybe need to slow down on, like I think it's just that willingness to adapt to what's going on, because it's going to keep changing, right? Like it doesn't matter like what disability or anything really. It's just like, the human experience, I think.
And I'll give you one more thing.
Yeah.
For me, it's picking the right people who make you feel good and say your name in rooms when you're not there. I think that as I've matured as a person, as a mom, as a wife, as an entrepreneur, it's picking the right people to surround yourself by. I want to work with good-hearted people, and I'm really sensitive to that.
Oh, that's a big part of it. Yeah. You want to give more of yourself to the people that are like that, no doubt.
So thank you for being one of those people. I could see that in you.
Thank you. That's great. Like right away when I read your profile and everything, I thought this is somebody I need to talk to, and the dad element was, something we both share. So I thought that was really great. But I appreciate you sharing, everything. And for people that want to like check out your podcast and see what you're up to, is Instagram kind of the place to go for that?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Reena Friedman Watts or Better Call Daddy Podcast and bettercalldaddy.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook,
all the platforms, almost
all the things.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a lovely experience.
I appreciate it. And I'll look forward to talking to you again soon, maybe.